recording as well. Now, apparently we are live. Can you go on Twitch and check out how the stream is?
Give me a second.
Yep. Pop onto Twitch and check how the stream is because we're currently live. Tell me what's being.
Hey, I can hear us.
Does it work?
Yeah, but that's a fucking massive delay.
Oh, of course it's gonna be a delay.
Do not.
Yeah,
For no
I can hear us.
reason, go
Your voice
down
is
there.
a bit low.
Okay, cool. I'll turn my my thingo up a little bit. But you can. What's on the stream currently?
Just an image.
Just an image. Can you hear all the voices in lag? So there should be a delay. There should be somewhat of a delay. Is there one?
Yeah, very.
Cool.
It's very weird because I'm listening to both.
Is there anyone on stream? Probably
I
not. I think so.
I do not know.
How do I check this? Is it showing? We are currently live. There's no one watching. We are currently live. There's
Huh,
no one
and we're just
watching.
playing. Cool.
We are currently live.
In real
Am I
life,
live?
we're just playing. Cool.
Oh, okay, that is really tricky.
In real
Am I
life,
live?
we're just playing. Cool.
Oh, okay, that is really. Okay, I'm gonna hop off the stream because it's gonna backplay in our audio.
Yeah, I know. It's so weird.
That is really weird. Is the one viewer me, or was it me?
Huh?
Was the one viewer me?
One view is me.
Oh, it was you. Okay, cool. Well,
This is, if people do like type something in, like it'll
I
be
can
fine.
see it. I will be able to see it, which is the good thing. Okay.
There's two people now. Hello?
Hmm?
Someone with us? Hello?
Is there?
Is that you, Simon?
There was one, but I left. Okay. So
That's
there
just
shouldn't
two.
be.
Is
Is there two?
Yeah, minus
Really?
me. I think there's one person who's listening to us.
Oh,
Is it-
that's fun. Anyway, well, that's cool. There's no one here. That's okay. We'll just get
I
onto it
think there
anyway.
is. I don't know.
Well, no, because that one person I just left that our stream because it was gonna backplay while I was streaming, so it wouldn't make any sense.
Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, yeah, cool. We're on now.
Is there only one?
No, there's two now.
There's two. How is there two? This doesn't make any sense. Okay, we'll just start playing
I
and see
suppose
how it
I'm
goes.
watching. I suppose I'm watching.
That'd be cool.
Come on, let's back to one now.
Yeah, okay, that was me. There we go. Oh, that's fun. So we are streaming now. I am recording as well. I'm just gonna shove this onto YouTube later, which is gonna be pretty funny, as it is. But yeah, you keeping track of how many people are actually there. I can see all the stream chats and whatnot. Okay, but you can keep track of if anyone's there. Alrighty.
But I think I'll be impressed if someone actually is here.
One person, I'll be so happy. One person.
That means it has to be the count has to be 2.
Yes. So it's currently 1. If you can hear the clicking in my background, I'm currently also playing a game. Both of us are, for context. Alrighty. No, actually, no, that's the thing that I was telling you about the other day. I'm like, well, okay, we can start streaming, but like, how do you actually get people to join is a question. That is an age-old question, you know?
Well, I guess I think we just have to be very consistent, I guess. If people want to join us, I guess.
Well, the thing is, I don't know if anyone is going to join us, hey?
I don't know. That's a possibility. That's why it's you never know.
Hey, I like those chances. Better than nothing.
Which is 0 to 0.
Shh, start. It's a start. It's a start. Hey, this was your idea. You're the genius who was like, oh, let's see what happens if we start streaming. And I was like, okay, sure. I'll give you the rundown.
Is it lagging for you or no? No, it's
No.
fine for you.
Why? Is it lagging for you, or is it lagging on stream?
No. I was just wondering. I don't have any fun topic at the moment.
I don't either. It's kind of just a one of your usual Monday chats.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Got bumped. Okay then. Did left. Can you hear the clicking in the background?
For Discord?
Yeah.
No.
You can't hear me clicking. I can.
A bit. Yeah, I can.
It's picking up on my screen, so I'll try not to click as difficultly. Oh, sorry, that's not a thing. I try not to click as hard because it is kind of annoying. I can understand.
Hmm.
That's fun.
Discussion.
Right. Let's try.
Oh yeah, Simon.
Mm.
I was wondering that if this Corona thing doesn't blow through, right? If it's still
Mm-hmm.
stuck to the same thing,
Yeah.
like,
Ouch.
yeah,
You hear all that crunching.
bro. Wait, let me eat my food first.
Okay. Hungry boy. You were
No,
saying?
if it doesn't blow through, right?
Mm.
How do you think like it kind of works?
What do you mean?
Like I mean like if it still stay the same for like I don't know for this whole year,
Mm-hmm.
well,
Well, it would suck a lot. I'll tell you
no,
now.
I know, but like will it still like like would all the policies still stay the same or like
Well, for one, they just make adjustments according to the situation, which at the current moment in time is this one here, right?
mm,
They probably have a fair few different switches throughout the year, depending on how things are traveling. But
mm,
if it kind of keeps going like this, then I sincerely doubt, because I think we are trying to kind of flatten the curve was the concept people were getting around with isolation and everything.
mm,
They probably will change policies accordingly, but maybe just different ones, I guess, to fit the current. Uh,
situation?
yeah, because it
Mm,
obviously, like maybe nowadays was a little bit different to 2 weeks ago.
mm.
So, all they've really done is made adjustments accordingly. So I wouldn't say it would make too much of a difference, but I'd hope that the times will improve sometime soon.
Mm.
Yeah. What are you eating?
Hmm?
What are you
Biscuit.
eating? A biscuit. Very nice. Good fashioned biscuit. But bets on how long do you think this is gonna last?
For what?
The
For
whole
Corona thing?
yeah. How long do you reckon?
Mm, I don't know.
It could stick around for a while. You never know. Um,
I know. That's why I was like, I'm wondering, like, if that's the case, right? Because like for you, your study is like, you can do online study because it's all theory. But
hmm.
my study is all like practical basis. How would that work if that's the case?
Well, they'd probably make adjustments to your course like they did mine, because I do also have laboratory components to mine. So it's not
Mm,
just entirely theory. You actually have to do practical work. So they've tried to make I think they're changing it up now with the course
mm-hmm.
outlines and everything.
Okay.
Um, I think one of my classes has already changed their course outline accordingly, and we're going to do like online laboratories, which are like online practicals, really.
Ah.
Um, but aside from that, I think it would be pretty difficult, especially for you, because yours is a lot more practical than mine.
Mm,
So trying to get a hands-on subject to be online doesn't necessarily work.
mm,
To be honest, it sounds like you might be taking a little bit of a pause in coursework for a little bit.
mm.
Um,
I know,
my
but
mm,
yeah, because like for me, it's like because like I'm an international too, so like
mm,
you only have like a certain amount of time that.
you're lagging a little bit, sorry.
Yeah, I know. My ping just came.
Mm-hmm,
Because I'm international too, like
mm-hmm.
it kind of defeat the purpose because I only can stay here for like a few years, then I have to go back.
Um, I'm certain there will be exceptions made because of the situation change. I'm sure they'll adapt that accordingly. So let's say
Mm,
your course takes longer than the required 2.5 years. I bet
mm,
they'll probably do something to account for the fact that you know this wasn't your fault anyway.
Mm.
and they'll probably extend you for however long you need to be there. You know.
Mm.
So yeah, I don't think it'll be too much of an issue.
Mm.
Well, hopefully at least.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it sounds like you might have to add another extra 6 months or whatever to your course, eh?
Mm.
Which will be a pain, I know, because we're trying to work for as quickly as we can here, so that we don't have to stay for as long. But hey man, it's the times we're given, so can't really
Mm.
change that. That's okay though. Hopefully, your coursework and my coursework doesn't take longer than it should.
Mm.
But if it does, we'll just live by it and see how it goes. You know?
Definitely. Hope
Yeah.
so.
I hope we actually just get by a lot quicker.
Mm.
Would suck having to take, since I'm already taking 4 years, I don't want to go for another 4.5.
Mm.
Bit of a waste of time, but that's okay.
Mm.
Maybe we could just be filling up this time with making new things, such as starting the stream. Whoa, what's an idea? Nah, jokes. This idea wasn't birthed in the middle of coronavirus. This took many months in planning, so don't you worry. It's not a heat in the moment type idea. This was
Like
a thing, I think, like since Feb, or like January at least.
probably harder.
Yeah.
Like what's your opinion about like the theory of like like corona is like a kind of like a nuclear weapon rather than like a natural
Well, you see, it is an interesting idea. I Not necessarily because it's a bit hard to nowadays to believe in all these theories anyway. One of them could be more
Mm.
true than the other. You never really know because you only get fed one thing. But there's a possibility, I guess.
Mm.
Um, like not to say it probably you know wasn't entirely true or entirely wrong,
Mm.
but there's a chance, I guess. But if I was to say, oh, this thing's entirely true or entirely wrong, I'd probably need a little bit more information than just a couple of, things I see around on social media.
Mm.
What about you? What do you think?
I don't know. I think both have good possibilities. It's just you know um they have their own strong argument. It's just that
Hmm.
sometimes like when I heard like like people say that oh it's like a Chinese government like conspiracy things like I guess but at the same time that's a bit too far though and
Oh.
then
Hmm.
it's like this one theory was going on with like saying that like, the reason how it's a Chinese conspiracy because like you remember last year the whole like Hong Kong was trying to ban like China and things like that the uncensorship and shit like that.
Hmm. Of
Yeah,
course.
because of that, then like the protest was going on, and then after that,
Oh, I remember
uh,
that.
and then like people were saying that like the reason that it was China made is because like the president was trying to stop the protests from happening. That's why they created the whole thing, and it's like a large population so they can like kill off people or like make them sick so they can go back home or some shit. Which i-
Bit of
which
an
is like
extreme measure, but hey,
yeah,
it's not
it
uncommon because we've already seen this throughout history anyway.
it
Um,
sound possible, but at the same time I was like, really though? But like why? What's the whole point of it?
I know it is kind of bit blunt for a point, but it still can be entirely true. Like
Hmm.
as crazy as it may sound, like, these things actually happen. Um, and a lot of people do what they want just to kind of get political views across, which is a
Hmm.
scary thought. But hey, apparently that's how the world works.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's fair. Right?
Hmm. We'll see. We'll see. We'll see. It really depends. Sometimes I
Hmm.
might come across and try to regain some sort of control to empower certain
Hmm.
vision, but some people lack other ideas, or they're not open-minded enough to take into account all the possibilities, so
Hmm.
they end up just kind of getting lost halfway through what they were trying to achieve. It is kind of funny though.
Mm.
People go through all this effort to get one thing across, and next thing you know, that wasn't exactly what they wanted, and you're like, so.
Mm.
Yeah. But that's really how they get around things.
Mm.
Here's an interesting question. Do you ever think um everyone around the world cooperating together will ever
Mm-hmm.
happen? Just like on
Mm.
a global scale basis. I don't think so, actually.
I think no. I think it's possible.
Possible? Okay.
Uh,
Go ahead.
it's it's because like I think like it's possible, but it also has to bring down to the situation as well.
Mm,
For example, like Corona, right?
mm,
Like yeah, you don't see like all the like the work put an effort into it, and then like you don't see like people contributing it. But I do think like to make this kind of like lockdown possible, it has to like involve with the whole pretty much like a whole country or like whole people. So I
mm,
think it is possible. It's just that like if you say like it as like a whole thing, it's a bit of like like to say it's like it's pretty much impossible because you have like the dumb people that that doesn't listen to anyone, and then they still like, oh, party time, and then they don't really care about like like people around them, and then you have people that like majority of people do care, and then they will
mm,
try to do like a lockdown thing,
mm,
which is possible, like which is like I think it's possible, but like to say it's like impossible is it's not right either. It's just
mm.
it's very the chances of that being happening is
It's
very
quite,
very difficult.
yeah, it is quite, okay. Maybe I should reframe the idea. Um, maybe not in entirety, but obviously there is a large proportion you could say that will kind of contribute to um, getting everything working,
Mm,
but I doubt that it's in absolution we'll be able to achieve that because obviously
mm,
um, I think that's an idea already people already understanding across when you're dealing with mass amounts of people is trying to get an absolute population to do something is almost impossible
mm,
because you have to have people who actually go against whatever people are trying to achieve, which is
mm,
fine because there should be a little bit of contradiction because there's an aspect of maybe a new perspective that people aren't getting with
mm,
those who are being who are going against the common idea. But nonetheless, I do think it is um, in a sense it makes sense to have that small proportion of like people who don't actually agree.
mm.
So is it helpful all the time? Not necessarily. Sometimes it is. You never know though.
Yeah,
You
very
can never
much.
really be certain if it is useful. Sometimes the one person who likes to stray away might actually be onto something.
Mm,
Other times they might actually be onto the wrong thing, and so you know it's really
yeah.
up to us to gauge whether where we actually want to stand on such issues. But
Mm,
hey, that's just how it is. Yeah.
yeah. So sometimes
Hmm.
I think it just varies a lot.
Oh yeah, no,
Like
definitely.
it- it's like it's like saying that like it's like saying that like for example, like imagine like in the world that's like like a coin, right? They
Mm, a
have
coin.
like a coin have like freaking like a million face like sides, right? And then you said that
Okay.
what's the chances of like the coin landing on one side, and
Mm.
then it's pretty much like one in a million, right? And then
If it has a million faces, I guess.
yeah, and then like
A
yeah, like you
specific
see
side, if it has a million faces, one specific side probably has a one in a million chance. Yeah.
exactly, but
Hmm.
like it's the same thing with like like if you said like if people wants to work together, like it's also like you can't also say one in million. It's like it's
Hmm.
it's like it's I don't know. It's like one in million is like low enough, but like like the chance of 1 million is not even like oh shit, I'm losing my mind track. So yeah,
No,
so
keep
saying
going.
so saying 1 in a million it's not really the truth either because like it couldn't even be 1 million. It could be like 10 in a million because like if you break it down and then you break it down like as like how many people is in the world and how many people would do the thing they were told, right?
Hmm.
Like it kind of like goes down, I guess. Like like for example, like if like okay, if I have if I have 100 people here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I told them what to do, but that's like two people that doesn't want to listen to me, right? In
Mm-hmm.
that the case, like what's the chance of them listening to me? It's probably uh maybe like 2 in 100.
Oh no, I understand what you mean. It's never only just one,
Mm,
so it's always grouped anyway. Because this is how funny things are. Is how often you find certain opinions that may seem outrageous and just improper can actually be translated to having a more popular opinion rather than just one.
mm,
So, like most influential leaders anyway, they have ideas, right?
mm,
For the population that they want to try and convince everyone to believe in, or
mm,
to say that it's the way to go. And if you want to get something done, then obviously that's something you have to achieve. You actually have to convince people to say that that's what they want to happen as well. And
mm,
going with that idea of that coin, 1 in a million faces. More often than not, if you kind of decrease the size of the pool you're trying to get. So let's say how many of these faces have a specific line in a specific spot,
mm,
because then you'd have maybe 2 in a million, because two of the faces might have a specific detail that's not exactly in the they have one minor detail that changes them, but if you
mm,
base it upon that one premise, then they're effectively the same. And so
mm,
if you have that idea, then you have the chances of 2 in a million. And so
mm,
when people try to get around with certain ideas, like, oh, if one person doesn't want to agree, maybe another person doesn't agree because of a different reason, but in
mm.
entirety, both of them disagree, right?
Yeah.
So the one premise there is that they both disagree, but then obviously they have their own differences, you know, which differentiates the
Mm,
um, the actual difference between those two ideas. And so when it
mm,
comes to chances, if you increase that pool of where you get your of what the actual premise is being discussed, then obviously you'll have more of a chance than just one.
mm,
But then if you get to really, really, really specifics, then obviously that's when it decreases, because you know it may not ever hit just one. It could always be more than one chance. But
mm,
it's not to say that there isn't something so specific that only one person believes in,
mm,
because a lot of people, like, for the amount of people in this world, I sincerely doubt that there's only one person in like 7 billion something that
mm.
believes in a certain thing. It's kind of hard to believe that that exists, you know.
Yeah.
With numbers that large, surely there's more than one who believe in
Mm,
one thing. So yeah,
yeah.
but
Hmm.
yeah.
Like, have you seen like a clip where like you know how when Trump was trying to elected by president, right? You know
Mm,
how like a lot of people have like a not like a roasting, but like saying like an argument of the thing kind of thing. So
mm,
like they kind of gather all around, and then after they kind of like talk about like the idea and shit, and then who
mm,
can be president. Have you seen one of the clip like where like the people like one guy like his name didn't like he got called out, but
mm,
he didn't hear his name, and then after that like majority of the candidate was going like walking past him, and like one of them's like acting like you eat it, your name has been called, and then like and then he was like because he was scared, he didn't know if his thing was like called out, so he just stand there. Then you see like Trump just walking up to him and then say it's okay, like your name will get called out. And then I don't know, like people, you know how a lot of people are saying like, oh, Trump is like a bad person and shit, but
mm,
like the moment I look at that clip, right, I don't think Trump was as bad as people said he is. Like he still has some humanity inside from it, where
mm,
like he kind of cares like people around him. Like
mm.
for example, like the other candidate, they didn't like got them care like in any situation. They just like, what are you doing, you idiot? Your name has been called, and then like they didn't like they just saw him like,
We'll try
oh,
find the clip for anyone who wants to ever listen to this, so that they actually get context for what we're talking about. But
mm,
because I actually haven't seen it myself, so I couldn't really say anything about it. But
mm,
see if you can find the clip again, and we'll just link it below as one of the
mm.
topics. But yeah, go on ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So like I saw that and I was like, like Trump doesn't seem half bad in this like text
Hmm.
because like when you look at Trump, it's like he's not being like he's not like try to discriminate or like try to judge other people, like making fun of them, I guess. Like it's like you when you look at him, he looks like he's pretty much like just there, and then he because like I think his name wasn't even called out too, so he just stand there and then just next to the guy, and then he's just like it's okay, and then it feels like feel very different to the Trump that we know, and
Hmm.
then it's just so completely different. And it caught me off guard. I was like, oh, like it's maybe he's not as bad as it seems. It's just like like just like the word travel around quickly, and then he just became bad. Yes.
Hmm. Well, I mean, if you really wanted to understand why certain people have, ideas, there's like a really lengthy process to actually knowing why and how they think.
Mm,
Um, and so when you say, obviously a lot of things are opinionated, and when you say something is bad, you have to
mm,
kind of there's a lot of definition that comes across. It's actually defining what do you mean by bad, bad in what,
mm,
bad in this, bad in that, because it if it's general, then it doesn't really make any sense to what the other person's saying. So if you
mm,
say, oh well, if you could say this, oh, let's say this apple is bad,
mm,
and then obviously you got to ask, well, what's so bad about the apple? Does it taste bad? Does it smell bad? Does it, just the overall look of the apple is bad? Does it have a rotten face on it or something?
mm,
Um, and so even then, there's a lot of categories you kind of have to get around before
mm,
you define it, because saying an apple is bad is just saying, well, it's bad, or well, why? But
mm,
if you can't answer well why, then how can you say it is bad? It has to have
mm,
like a um, specific thing you're referring to, and at least then you can actually make a valid point.
mm,
Um, you can't just claim it is and then generalize it and then expect people to believe you, because that almost makes no logical sense.
mm,
Um, but if you then get into the specifics, a lot of people kind of have pre-existing ideas, or are misinformed sometimes.
mm,
Um, they get like the video you saw. It gives you an impression of good old Mr. Trump in one sense, right?
mm,
The thing is, now you can't hold that one video accountable for everything he does, right? Neither can you
mm,
hold it justifiable for anything he does later on, because
mm,
it's only one facet. If we were to speak about that topic specifically in the video context, then you can make a statement about it, hey,
mm,
because it makes sense. You're talking about a specific video, and in that specific video, that's what happens. But you can't just
mm,
go around generalizing, generalizing all he does because you've seen him do something nice in one video. Neither can you say it because he says something bad in one video, right?
mm,
You can definitely have a different impression. It's okay. Opinions are also granted. You know, they're not saying that it's bad to have an opinion, but if you want to make really kind of a structured and you know an an argument that actually makes sense, then you actually have to have more of an idea, or like a broader scope of things, rather than just generalizing it down to one thing and then saying your opinion is valid accordingly. So
mm,
this is why I say, like, for the tough topic of political opinions, it is difficult to argue one thing, because more often than not, if you're arguing something about politics, you're arguing about two different things,
mm,
and obviously that's when it gets somewhat heated, because then you're just at each other's throats for no reason. When in the start, can't make a valid argument if you're not arguing a valid specific statement.
mm,
I think we already discussed this in like the video earlier, but defining things. Um, like the reason it is there is so that you can get something across, so that there isn't just nothing.
mm,
We did make this kind of idea, or we talked about this idea the other day, that obviously, you know, even though definitions are a bit restrictive, the idea is it allows you to have a common ground of some sort, not just
mm,
not just speaking rubbish. And
mm,
most people, more you find too many people, especially arguing political opinions and saying one thing,
mm,
to make statements for only seeing one point of view, which
mm,
I think isn't necessarily the best method of trying to convince people.
mm,
You can have a really strong voice, but
mm,
if you're saying the wrong things, then it's kind of hard to argue the credibility of what you're saying if you're like making outlandish comments based on maybe one source of evidence, you know. So people who argue well and who should be considerate, because obviously, you know, you're not going to amount to a solution if you're
mm,
not actually looking for one. And often people debating are just trying to get they're pretending their solution is the right one, and they're trying to convince you it is the right one. You know,
mm,
which is what it's about. So that makes sense. But for that's on complex problems are a lot more complex than people think, and it's not
mm,
just a one-way answer.
mm,
If you're considering everything, in which you can't consider everything, so you have to make compromises in certain situations. But you know,
mm,
that gets onto a whole different topic of things, which you have to discuss one by one. Can't just be talking about all of it at once. But
mm,
what I'm saying is, you know, for those people who, you know, are way too narrow-minded,
mm,
it's more of a disadvantage for them than it is an advantage.
mm,
I think the true advantage is in having, like, you know, being open to actually understanding an opinion
mm,
is very advantageous, because it either allows you to look at you know, take a step back and look at a critical point of your argument, or even then allow you to realize if you have any flaws in your argument, or maybe, you know, to realize that there are some parts that are missing, and
mm,
that you can't hold your one opinion in absolute truth. Because more
mm,
often than not, it never really is.
mm,
But yeah, there's my take on that.
mm,
Hmm.
mm. Then like you know how like you were saying that like your kind of like opinion has to be like have some sort of like evidence or like other than that like narrow minded it's like uh it's more like a disadvantage rather than it's rather than an advantage.
Hmm.
If you say that's the case, right? Like for example, for example, like I don't know, like some religion, right?
Hmm.
Like for example, the answer that you wanted, they always say like, oh, believe in faith,
Hmm.
right? And then like that doesn't have an answer to begin with. Like so in that case, like would it be like are you narrow minded or like are you like are you just are you doing a like if you are you asking a question but you just don't have any answer to get from, I guess, like you know what I mean? It's like
Hmm.
if you said that's the case, right? Like how would the
Hmm.
religion work in that sense? Like would people be like narrow minded and they don't really care around the world and they don't like try to find the answer for it,
Hmm.
but because of like the word faith or like the
Uh-huh.
like the meaning behind it, it's like people would just follow it blindly, I guess.
Well, you shouldn't confuse being narrow-minded with focusing on something, right? There is a difference between the two. Because I'm not saying, you know, being too focused on one thing is a bad thing, because it has its pros and cons in certain situations.
Hmm.
In an argument, being focused is very important, but that
Hmm.
doesn't, you can't discount being also, you know, open to readjusting to make your focus, like, because you're focused on one thing, and you'll
Hmm.
achieve a lot more if you're focused on one thing. But you can't, not being narrow-minded means you're not willing to make any changes to your focus, which is
Hmm.
the wrong way to go about it. Well, I'm just saying it as an opinion, isn't necessarily
Hmm.
the best way, because then you're missing out on the opportunity of being able to change, you know? Because,
Hmm.
of course, you know that too much of anything really is never good.
Hmm.
um, that's why being too broad doesn't necessarily get you anywhere. Being too focused might not get you where you want, might not, you know, get you to where you want to be.
Hmm.
Um, and so obviously there is a balance between focus and being
Hmm.
um, too open or broad. But in a sense, you could, like, well, it's a bit of a different context for a religion. Um, maybe you are searching for an answer, or maybe you're not. Um, but then obviously it's kind of like what you're trying to achieve with it.
Hmm.
So it's hard to say that they're being narrow-minded because they're wanting people to believe in a certain thing.
Hmm.
My take on that is they're giving you a scope to focus in with, right?
Hmm.
Um, and that scope doesn't limit opportunity for you to take on change. And so people may say in certain religions to follow a certain set of doctrines of things because they want you to see a scope in which to, they're effectively giving you a scope to view life if you want to get something different out of it or taking a different look. And inherently, there's nothing restrictive about that. Because there isn't really anything. They're just telling you if you do this, that increases, your chances of something, or it may just, make you realize things a little bit different. I wouldn't say that they make you narrow-minded. Instead, they give you a sort of lens to help guide you become a bit more focused on something. But then, obviously, ultimately, in the end, it is dependent on what you think. Anyone can tell you anything, but if you don't wish not to believe it, then you don't believe it. If you wish to believe it, then you do believe it. Which is why we're given this idea of free speech, freedom to believe whatever the heck you want. There isn't necessarily something restricting. It always is. There's always got to be times where, as credible as it may seem, you may just refuse to believe it. And what can someone do if you're not willing to take it on? Then, well, you can't really change that, can you? It's only then when you actually want to change that anything happens. So that's also the other part at the end of it. But when people give you like sets of beliefs and something to work on, it's more of an incentive, hey, of leading a life you may want, and it does give you a lot of perspective, which is why it's never usually like it's not inherently wrong. Some people may not believe it, which is why it is obviously difficult in a faith-based situation where there is, like we said, there is no definitives. And remember when we talked about this, when you're not defining anything, you have to be open to accepting that some things are just the way they are.
Yeah.
And if you can't accept that, then then you'll just find yourself even more lost. So there is a kind of premise you kind of have to set before you start making statements. Which is why I said being open to everything is really important because you educate yourself on what is available compared to what isn't. Like most things are guidelines. Nothing ever really is stated. There's always if they give you a guideline and they give you a set of consequences for not following those guidelines, then
Yeah.
they're all actions. They already gave you a guideline. They gave you a set of consequences. If you didn't choose to follow the guidelines, then obviously you'll suffer the consequences. That's almost a given, right? But maybe you follow those guidelines, you come up with something amazing, and then that's just how it is. Like they're there for guidance rather than like being restrictive.
Yeah.
So you could say instead of it being restrictive, it's more of just guidance. Obviously you do have to kind of get the idea that there is free will and you choose what you believe. And a lot of people don't know where they want to go, which is why guidance exists, because it helps you kind of model a path, maybe the way you might want to be going. And that's why a lot of people are given lots of opportunities for guidelines. But yeah, but if we do want to kind of get into that, if it's going to be a bit, that's just really broad, so it's kind of hard to say anything if it's really broad. But we can get into like specifics, which we'll discuss other things if you want. Because I
Yeah.
know the question you posed was like kind of more on faith-based, but I think it is pretty difficult to argue that. So I just wanted to bring a more generalized, not necessarily generalized, but like a broader idea for now, and then you can get into the specifics later using the broader idea. But yeah, how about you though? What do you kind of think about it?
For like for like opinion and faith kind of thing.
Yes.
I don't know. Like okay, for me, like I am like a huge faith person. Like I do believe in things, but like I I don't know how to say it, but like I do believe it, but like at the same time, like there's always like kind of like for me it's like it always has some sort of like like there's always like a possibility that it might not be true and things like that. And
Mm.
then like I'm like pretty much contradicts myself, right? So basically, my whole thing is that I do believe in faith. Like it is a heavy part of my life, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm like, but for some reason, you know how people like would love to like follow the word of by faith and things, which is
Mm-hmm.
great for them, good for them.
Mm.
But like for me, like I do believe it, but at the same time, like I always have like a mentality where like it's like uh like I don't care if it's like if it's not real and things like that. But if it happens to me, it happens. And
Mm.
like and then I do experience like the love, like for example, the love of God and things like that.
Mm.
It's just that like if one day like it it happens, I like in my mind it's just like in my mind it's just like I think of like, yeah, okay, I guess it happens, but like it doesn't take away from the experience that I have before, kind of thing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And then
Yes.
from that point it's like from there it's like pretty much like it's either like I like still believe it, or do I stake the value of like there's a fact saying that God doesn't exist or things like that.
Mm.
And then it's like and then like if like and then like it has to be like kind of thing like that people like have to proven like like the reality of God is not like real, or like the system of like having like the spirit or like things like that. It's like it's like it's fake too. And
Mm-hmm.
then if that's the case, like like it's still always like a kind of like a doubt, like to say the least is like I have doubt from both sides, right? So
Mm.
like it's like if something happens and they found like a information about things, or like they found some research that like one thing on the other is like not true, I always have some sort of doubt, because to say the least, there always has some sort of possibility, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's always a possibility that it can be real, it cannot be real. Maybe some research is wrong and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. So like and like like us human are not like perfect as well. So like you always have to think of like, oh, what like is the research true or not true? And then if like like the thing that like religion created, or like God had, like it could be like it could be have human error too, because like in my opinion, it's because like us human is not perfect. And like anything that came out from like humans, or like the like observation that came from humans, like in my opinion, it's not perfect either. So like in any cases, like I don't think you can take anything from face value, right? Like
Mm. Definitely. Definitely.
even the concept of like judging people from the cover, you can't even take from a face to face value, because that
Mm.
doesn't work in that case
Of
either.
course. Of course. Because
So
then you're opening yourself up to being deceived if it isn't true,
mm,
but also being
so
oblivious if it is.
mm,
So it is.
so
It's a
like
bit. Mm.
in it says the in if the sense of that case is like how can you say that, like like yeah, sometimes like that's why sometimes I don't get like the path of like are you like a right left wing or right wing, or like are you left or right? And then it's like
Mm.
my opinion is like, can I be both? Like can I stay in the middle rather than like pick
Mm.
one side? Because okay, each side has their own unique story, and they have their own like possibility and things like that, but they
Mm.
also have like the thing that is like makes them good, or the things that makes them bad, kind of thing. So
Mm.
like rather than like having like a left and right like concept, what kind of we have like a like all around concept, and it's always changing, right?
Mm.
Because the thing I found like the most like stupidest, or like the most dumb, is that like okay, for example, like don't tell me that like a person, if a person is in the left side or the right side, right?
Mm.
Like in the time of history, or like in any situation time, you think that like one person in their whole life would think that that some argument is wrong, right? So they always have
Mm.
to adapt. But they're so narrow-minded to the point that they don't care, like pretty much like we have to change. Like they always think that our side is always the right side, and then like there's no need for changes. And then in my opinion, that like okay, so for both sides, they're always trying to see what they can do to make a world in a better place, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if your idea or like your concept is never wrong, and you don't have to change like forever, right? How can you really adapt around, like they pretty much like, it's like saying that like like how to solve world hunger, right? And then you
Mm-hmm.
feed food for the children, and then like, and then it's like, okay, that's a good start, right? But
Mm.
like, how do you feed food from the children? Like, how do you like provide food? Like, how do you get food? Where do you get all the resources from, right?
Mm.
And like people's like, oh, but that's not the solution. The answer is like feed food. I was like, yeah, I guess so. But at the same time, like your answer, like your answer has to make sense. It can't be, oh, feed food for the children, and then that's pretty much it, right?
Mm.
Because like unless if you're like a if you're genie or like you can grant people wishes, like that makes sense. But like if you don't have that, like every single answer has some sort of like thing that it has to build from ground up, right? So
Mm.
like for example, like the reason that people say, oh, give food for the children or feed food to the poor, like it always come from, oh, what's human's necessity? Food, right? And then when you're hungry, what do you need? Food to like to fill up your stomach, like make you not hungry and make you leave, kind of thing.
Mm.
But like at the same time, like if I'm asking you like what's the like answer to world poverty, and you say, oh, feed food to children, I say, yeah, there is like that's like the solve, but that's not the
Mm.
answer. That's uh like a
That's the goal
goal.
almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It's not
That's
a
the goal. That's
solution.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So when people say like the solution of like um world hunger is to feed food, I was like, no, that's the solution. But like the goal is like the concept of like you have a like how do you get all the stuff, like where do you get it and things like that. That's the solution.
Mm.
But like people think that like feed food for the hunger is the solution. It's like, no, that's the goal of it. So like you can't really
Well,
mm,
that
I get.
mm. Yeah, no, I get it. That's a good it's a strong point to hold, actually.
mm,
Well, I mean, people already kind of realize that, um, you know, not all problems are simple. There's
mm,
complex ones, which obviously a new solution always brings a new could always bring a new problem. So,
mm,
um, um, like with the point you made, how if let's say someone was trying to solve this idea of world hunger,
mm,
and the one goal is to feed starving children. Let's say, hey,
mm,
um, like that's another problem though,
mm,
because world hunger isn't one problem. It's a
mm.
set. Or if you view it as one problem, then you're gonna find yourself, trying to find a solution that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly.
And well, currently, if world hunger exists, then obviously it hasn't been solved.
mm,
Um, and the thing is, multiple problems require multiple solutions, and
mm,
I mean that's almost ingrained in everything nowadays. Is that you know it's impossible to achieve a solution for a complex problem simply because there's a lot of other underlying problems that
mm,
like prevent it from being solved so easily. Like anything in
mm.
life, if it were so simple, it would have already been done by now. Hey,
Yeah,
um,
because like yeah, like as you said, like if the concept of like saying that um world hunger is to like feed food for the children, right?
mhm,
Like because that's such an easy and straightforward concept, but why is it haven't completed yet, right? Like
mm,
that's why it's kind of like, yeah, like I guess feed food for the hunger works, but like give them like food for like internal like time, or like or do we like teach them how to do stuff, and then they can do it from themselves, and that would be solved for the world, right?
mm,
I think that's where like your idea of like it's not only just one thing. There's multiple things also like
mm,
come to place too, because like if it's like it is feeding world hunger, right? Like why is it done already if it's so simple? Like if that's the case, like for example, like if like for example, I don't know, like if if there is like kind and rich people in this world, right?
mm,
It is possible for them to like buy food for them, and then provide their stuff, but at the same time it's not like a everlasting solution, right? Because for
mm,
example, if there is a like a really rich and kind person in this world, which is like a millionaire, and then he spent all his money on like all of his money go through like world hunger and things like that. The
Mm.
solution is like the solution also is not everlasting too, because what happened when the like the billionaire die or like the millionaire die,
Mm.
like who's gonna feed the poor again? Because it's kind of like a it's kind of like a I'm not sure if this is the right term, but it's kind of a paradox where like you have to have something to have the other pretty much. And then
Mm.
I think like this might sound cheesy and shit, but like the like there's an anime. It's like Full Metal Alchemist is like the whole idea is like equal exchange and shit. So
Mm.
you're trading one thing off to the other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's the whole basis of it. That's like I get like it does makes a lot of sense when you think about it, because like for example, if you have a genie, right, and then
Mm-hmm.
your wishes is to solve world hunger, which is
Mm-hmm.
great, but like how there's like whenever in the movies or things like that, how genie always has some sort of twist, right? So for
Mm-hmm.
example, like if you ask the genie, I want to fly higher, I want to learn how to fly, that means like you're like the twist of it is like you become a bird, you're not a human anymore, right?
Mm.
And then like if that's the case, right? If the whole world basis is in the idea of like you have to exchange one thing to get the other thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that means like in a sense that even you have as a genie saying I want to solve one thing, like it doesn't mean that the thing that you wanted is what you're gonna get, right?
Mm.
Because like for example, if you want to solve world hunger, where do you get the food from? Like where do you get the money from? It just kind of goes back to the term of like like how do you get this stuff? How like if you do ask from a genie, right? Does the genie take the food out of your pocket or like out of a farmer's pocket and things like that? And then it's like it's also like the same thing of like how like people are starving in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason in our world there's a such thing called there's a such thing is wastage of food, right? If people is hungry in this world, but how is it possible there's food wastage, right? Because if people is hungry and then if you feed the food for the people that is hungry, how can you still leave some for some food wastage, you know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like it doesn't make sense. And then like when you think like why is that the reason, and then like like if we transfer all the food to like poor folks, like it also comes down to how do you give it to the poor folk? Like do I spend the money on like gas to send it towards the poor folk, or like there's a lot of things that comes into play that people doesn't think about it. But also uh like I don't know, it's like I don't like to say this, but it's like a kid answer. It's like how like some people are like very pure and like very kind and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
and people like for example like people like I think it's like solutions like oh this the solutions right there, and it's like and then like the person that gone through a lot of things, they said about like it's not possible, it's not as easy as you think, and the
Mm.
people that give you the answers like they get mad from it because you're going against the idea saying that it's easy, because like
Mm.
it might be easy for them because they look at it, but at the same time it's hard for the person that is doing it. Like for example like okay uh for example like if like if if I'm the person that is asking a solution, right? Or not even asking a solution, like I want someone to like listen to me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're the person that like is listen to me, and then I say that like bro, like dude, I'm so freaking hungry, dude, like I'm so hungry, I don't know what to do. And then you're sitting there just saying that, well, you know what you can do, dumbass? Buy some food, right? And then I was like, it's not that simple, dude. Like I don't have any money, and then I don't have work. And then you came in again and you say, oh, what's wrong with you? Just get some work. It's easy as that. But like for them, like it might be easy for them to get a work, but it's difficult for me because like I might like I might not is sorry, I'm not my like my age is not, it's not like I'm not old enough to do a work, or like because like I'm a refugee, that means like I can't get like a job as easy as like a citizen. can. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
then like, and then it's like this is why sometimes I found it dumb in like a workplace. It's like, oh, how do I get work? You need experience. And I was in my mind, it's like, but if I don't have the experience from the start, how can I get work? You know what I mean? It's
Mm-hmm.
like if every single places, even like KFC or McDonald's need experience for their work, how is it possibly how is it possible for me to get a job? I need experience, and then I can't get any experience because all of the place say I need experience for work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense, and it's just kind of that the thing is just like I don't know. I don't know if it's like it's like there should be a case where like this type of things kind of like explain to people and things like that, and then like it's the same thing. It's like for example like like I have this experience like last year or this year when I went back to Malaysia, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you know how you always thought like the term professor or like or your elders has like bigger experience or like like the mindset is much more wiser than yours, so it's much more open and much more like much more they have more wisdom kind of thing because like, they have
Mm.
more experience. But when I went back and then I talked to one of my like auntie and things like that, and then her concept it just doesn't match to each other because like she's a professor and then you think she's like a smart person, right? But the more you talk to her or the more you listen to her, all of her concept is just out the window. Because when you think of it, it's like oh when I think of it, it's that like her idea is that people around you, right? If people love you, they can't be kind to you. They always have to be mean. Th- and then like because like because she said that like if people is mean to you that means like they tell you your weakness and like for example like in her case is that like for example if you're bad at drawing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm not giving you criticism, right? I give you these type of things like your art is shit, you can't improve anymore, things like that. She said that's the if a person say that to you, that means you have to be their friend. That means they're a good friend. But when I
Mm-hmm.
think of it, it's like, no, that's not the case. If that's the case, people want to see you to fail. People doesn't want to see you exceed. What kind of idea is that? Like where like 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 some really bad shit can become a good thing. You know what I mean? It's like
Mm.
criticism and like good criticism and things like that could make a difference. And that is a negative, but at the same time, it's also a positive, right? But
Mm-hmm.
if someone keep giving you negative shit, and then it's like, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. How's that a good thing? Like, how is that in any situation a good for you or like for your works like for your workspace and things like that? And then
Mm.
after when she's done speaking, and then you know what she said? She said
Mm.
that, but like, and then she'll say that like if you if you have if people like make fun of you and things like that, you have to hold a straight face. You always have to smile. You can't show any emotion. And then like because emotion is your weakness. And I'm just sitting there. I was like, are you serious? Like that's the reason why emotion exists. It's to tell people that like we're done with the shit. Like don't s- don't hang out with me, or like to show that like you're mad, and then like to show people not to mess with you again, right? That's the whole basis. And then she's like, oh, your emotion is the base of weakness. And I was like, how's that? Like, how are you a professor like think something that like have some idea that is like this, that is so the concept of having this type of idea is so bizarre to the point that you truly believe that this type of idea actually exists. And then
Mm.
afterwards, that right, she just did a 360 around me out of nowhere, and she said that, you know what? But the love of God is the greatest of things. He love you. He'll show you kindness, and he love you. And then I'm just sitting there. It's like, but doesn't that contradict your idea of like people being mean and people being mean trying to it shows that they love you, but like in God's love sense, like if God's like hug you, love you, and like show like gratitude, no, that's good enough because it's from God. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's like, but you already said that like he has to like the love that you're looking for is like the mean love, like I hate you type of love. But like God's love is like it's like unconditional. It's like I love you no matter what. I don't really care, right? And it's like how would that fit into your narrative then? Like I don't get it. And it's like that's why like from that day on, like that's why like sometimes like I slowly started to believe that like even from the older generation, right?
Mm.
There's a possibility that like older generation is dumber than younger generation. Like because like when I was growing up, like people always say that like my opinion does not matter, your opinion doesn't matter because you're young, you're not old, you don't have any knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then because of that, I believe that every single person is well young, old, poor, rich, have some sort of idea that it's it's worth to listen to, because you never think that like a young little kid can like think of like a solution for even for world hunger, like something complex you can never think of, but a younger kid can do something like that, right?
Mm.
But I never thought it could do like the other way around, which is like older generation, even like like a person as smart as a professor has a thought that dumb to the point that they truly believe that that is the solution. And then I'm just sitting there, I was like, I don't know. I said somehow I'm just like I don't know if like any people like opinion really matters, or like because like that's like for example, like as we said, like opinion like does matter, right? But in the future, in some sense, our opinion could like always could have a possibility of like getting disproven wrong, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like now it's just like I don't know if like if any opinions really matter, like does anything does really matter, like even like for example, like if the term like of like if you believe like if the earth is flat, and then like for example like I believe the earth is round, like maybe in like I don't know if I should stick with that opinion, because I know there's in the future, like some people might prove that Earth is like flat, or like Earth is a cube, or like a
Mm-hmm.
oval. It's not. It couldn't be a round shape.
Mm.
That's I think that's the whole thing comes to play where just now when you're asking like, oh, are you like do you believe like what's your opinion about like gods and like the science part of things? It's like I do believe both of them, but I'm not confident enough to say I'm 100% down saying that this this concept is the right concept. You know what I mean? Like for example, uh like okay, for example, people always think that like for religion it's always like there's nothing wrong. That's always like perfect science, right? And then
Mm.
it's like I guess that is true, but at the same time like when you look at like when you compare the Old Testament and the New Testament, that's the reason why the Old Testament is not as great as the New Testament. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
the idea behind the Old Testament is like is there, but the execution of the Old Testament is not as great as the New Testament. Like for
Mm.
example, like like there's like 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 the Jews was like the original like the Jews is like they use this Old Testament, which like they're like they're considered one of like the most holy person. And then when Jesus came in, Christianity begins, right? Which is like
Mm-hmm.
so the whole concept of like like the Jews like the God that we're talking about is it's the same to like the God that the Jews is speaking of, right? Like
Mm.
because like the only difference is that because like Jesus came in, Christianity was created. So now there's two type of religion. One is Christianity, and the other is like Jews, right? And then uh,
Mm.
like for example, if people say like if like religion is so perfect, if that's the sense, why is there like two identical religion, which is Christianity and Jews, have the same exact
Judaism's the
God?
proper term,
Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
please.
I don't know what. Yeah, so Judaism like there has two, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if their whole idea is like they have the same God and things like that, why is there two different type of religion? You know what I mean? It's like that's why like even when it came down to religion, I can't even say that like religion is the greater religion, because maybe in the future like around like 10,000 years later, 100 or 10,000 years later, the
Mm-hmm.
the the terms of like Christianity could be bad, and something else could be good.
Mm.
that's why like I can't really say that one thing is the right thing or the other is right. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, funnily enough, you showed us an amazing example of the concept of a complex problem, hey?
Mm,
Just then, because obviously, you gave us an opinion on certain topics, and you gave us multiple, and you gave us multiple opinions, and to say that you can construct one response for all of that,
mm,
for me to construct one response to everything you said is wrong, right? I couldn't.
mm,
I'd have to go to a specific story, to a specific time, to a specific thing you mentioned to actually, to answer to.
mm,
And that's what not too many people understand today is obviously there's an existence of simple and complex problems.
mm,
There is, as we're taught in math, in algebra, there's a way. There's sometimes a singular solution,
mm,
but more often in the real world, it's a collection of those simple problems. Or not even,
mm,
it doesn't have to be simple problems because everything could be complex as well. And
mm,
obviously, I'd hate to think that people understand the world to be a set of simple problems.
mm,
It never really is because you might be able to break it down to one part that's simple, but then another bunch of parts which are more complex than the other part, right?
mm,
And I think people are thinking too much that there always is just um, simple answers to simple problems.
mm,
I'll go to the start of what you said and how you kind of commented when people um, say simple answers.
mm,
Um, it's because obviously when you ask, if you have, let's say, we'll start with the very first problem you said, and let's say you're like, oh, okay, I'm hungry. And
mm,
then some person responds to you with, we'll go eat food, right?
mm,
Um, obviously, maybe a simple statement begs for other simple answers like that, because we do
mm,
like to think it is simple. Like you never
mm,
actually break it down into as complex of I'm hungry. Well, there could be a lot of different parts to it. One, I'm hungry, I don't have, sufficient funds to get it. One, I'm hungry, I can't choose what I want to eat.
mm,
One, I'm just hungry, it's just a statement. Like how there's like a million different variations to what actually is meant by I'm hungry.
mm,
And so okay, um, when you ask a question like that, you'll get a
mm,
simple answer most of the time.
mm,
And obviously, a lot of misconceptions is a simple answer is a simple solution.
mm,
Um, and so because, well, I mean, if you are hungry and someone tells you, well, then go eat, technically that is correct in a sense.
mm,
But if you then add everything else aside, then the solution isn't as efficient, you know?
mm,
Because really, when someone does say, "Oh, well, if you're hungry, then just eat," and you're like, "Well, yeah, that is correct to a point." And
mm,
then if you now bring in the premise, let's say, "Well, I don't know what to choose," and then
mm,
they tell you, "Well, just choose." Well, then you're like, "Oh, that doesn't really help." Pay.
mm,
The answer to, "Well, I can't choose," could be giving the person a selection of things to choose from, a
mm.
set of guidelines, right?
Yeah.
They can give you a bunch of different types of food. You're like, "Oh, do you want to eat some? I don't know, some of your kind of burger style pizzas or takeaway, food, pastas or whatever, you know.
Mm,
Um, that's a more efficient answer than just
mm,
saying, oh, we'll just choose one.
mm,
If someone asks, well, I don't have enough money, they could either offer a hand, be like, well, did you need some to borrow if they're that type of person? If this was your friend, you'd be more
mm,
willing to, obviously. Um, but then you can't say though, however, you can't branch off from that and say, well, I don't have money because I don't have a job. Because then a
mm,
job is a very different problem to, well, I'm hungry, right? They're two very different problems. Um, it's almost wrong to say that you can stretch the two between each other because you have to solve one of them before you get another one, or else you're not going to get anywhere.
mm,
Which is where we discuss things being too broad, well, this is that problem as well, where you need focus as well. You know,
mm,
we appreciate being broad because it allows you to, widen your selection of solutions from. But if it's
mm,
too broad, you can't set one that will achieve something.
mm,
So you have to get around to focusing on one thing first. And so, when you said, oh, when you're talking to someone, they're like, oh, I'm hungry, I don't know what to eat. Well, I mean, let's say it's just I'm hungry. They'll tell you go eat food. If you tell them, well, I don't have enough money, they might offer a hand, or or buy you food, or like tell you some solution to that, right? Or they might just tell you to go home and go to the pantry or something like that, right? But then the moment you ask, well, I don't actually have like if you ask something else after that, then you can't really, you know, you can't stem those two off each other. Um, that's why it's called a complex problem. It would be too difficult if you're trying to solve, two complex problems at once. Which is why often in computers we get computers to do them. All we do is we build, algorithms to run through every possibility to solve something we're after. Let's say, Um, and so that's why there's like, there's obviously too many possibilities for us to think about as, just normal human beings. And so it is hard. But you can't have two complex problems and then expect to solve both of them simultaneously when you can't even solve one. But it's hard to say that because obviously a simple question begs a simple answer. And we always like to think like that. If someone asks you, what's the time? You're going to look at your clock or whatever time device you have and tell them the time, right? Um, there's many ways you can say it. Some people like to, say the actual minute to the hours to the minutes. Others like to use half past, quarter to, blah blah blah. They're all solutions. They're just different ones. Some of them may be more efficient to other people, others might not, and you just have to kind of accept that idea, right? Then if you start kind of bringing in more problems, that's when you kind of can't really achieve anything, and then it seems to be like stagnant, which is almost funny because it's the exact result you expect if you unload a million problems into someone, you can't expect them to solve all 1 million, right? They have to start with one, then they go to another, then they go to another, right? And if they're lucky, they might find solution one also works for problem 10, That's why you have methods of things. But and so that's why what's important with like what you showed us is it's nice to kind of portray your arguments because they that it's important to like accept the fact that they do exist. But before kind of stating certain things, you have to deal with one very specifically first. And so then okay, so that's that kind of idea of more of a complex problem with the simple question of I'm hungry, I don't know what to eat, right? Change a couple parameters, it becomes pretty complex. Maybe you then have to base it off, maybe I feel like this food today, and you eat it, then solution done, you're not hungry anymore. That's like kind of an example you just showed us of why it's hard to deduce something as simply, because it never really is, but we like to think everything is simple. I mean, it makes life a lot easier if you didn't have to think about 1 million things at once, which makes sense. But I just don't think it's right to challenge or to make a final statement when you're trying to deal with multiple things at once. Which is why we always say that there isn't always one solution to things, and you have to be open to understanding opportunities. Doesn't mean you have to be open to everything. You also have to be sensible about it. You can't be like, well, if I'm hungry, and then you list out 1 million existing, I don't know, genres of types of foods. Well, that's impractical. Hey, like if you're hungry for something, then you say something savory, then you wouldn't give them a list of desserts, now would you? It makes it easier if you have, one thing to, limit the possible solutions to, because there's obviously a lot of possible solutions. You just have to like, what's the right one for the right situation. And so then when you get onto the idea of kind of religions being absolute, um, the absolute part is it's hard to say it's interpreted because it's there, it's written there. And so when someone claims something to be absolute, they have pretty much every right to say so because it's an interpretation of evidence, right? Um, if someone makes a statement, then technically you can take the statement for its absolute form. Um, you know, you could take it literally for how it was, and there's nothing to say you're wrong because if you interpret it that way, technically you are right. But then trying to kind of, if you have that mindset and you want to take it to absolution, it's wrong for you then to say that other people's interpretations are wrong because that in itself doesn't make any sense. Because you have to, one, be open to other possibilities, or else, this is the point where we kind of get to nowhere. And well, it is hard for like you said, how some people maybe experience best. Some people, older people, a lot wiser because they have more experience. Well, you then have to go into what premise do you mean by could they be smarter or dumber? Because obviously, everything's bound to changing, and if the situation changes, but then one person has more experience in this situation, they're likely to create a better outcome for that situation, right? If they have more experience. Um, Needless to say, it's not always like that because I think what most people should understand with literally anything, any job in the world is if it's not like rinse and repeat, it's you're trying to solve it's a solving a set of problems. Um, Lucky enough for some jobs, those are more simpler than others. You know, some jobs have simple problems to answer, but most of the research and progression jobs take more complex um, problems, which means they have to deal with complex solutions. Which is why you have a team to work with, right? You don't work by yourself because you'll be more efficient if you have multiple people. And the most efficient way for them to work is actually to, giving their opinion as a start. But then the
Yeah.
second part is adapting their opinion, which you have to do if you want to get anywhere, right? So, I mean, nowadays, even, I'm pretty certain um, people should be understanding that if you wanted to tackle a complex problem, like let's say a common one I see in a lot of youth today is climate change. Um, Now, that's one famous complex problem, and often what I like to see is people using their kind of intuition and gaining the understanding that unity gets them somewhere, right? Because a rally with one person isn't really a rally, it's just one person. And so a rally with multiple people makes more of a message than one person, hey. And that's good because they're using their power of the idea of unity. You get something done more efficiently. Um, I haven't necessarily been well researched on their methods of, kind of climate action. I'm guessing it is a set of maybe, some plausible answers. I'm not discrediting any of the answers that are possibilities, but since I haven't read it, I'm not going to make a statement on their solutions because I actually haven't read up on it, and I can't really say anything if I haven't read up on it. But you kind of want them to understand that you now have to get into this thinking of being like you have to get into the idea of complex solving before you actually start making statements. Let's take a kind of a more of a simple route for climate change right now. Well, I think let's say polar ice caps are melting. Why? Obviously, the development of humanity means more technological advances for the consumption or for our own kind of, you know, for our own what do you say this? For our own suitability, we've made the world kind of adapt to us rather than us to the world, right? So we've kind of natural selectioned the world in a sense instead of natural selectioning being, us to the world. It's more of like, oh, we made the world fit us, so we don't have to bear the harsh reality of natural selection. Um, which is true because we've made everything. We've made medicine, technology makes our lives easier, allows us to think a bit more abstractly. Um, because you know but I'm pretty sure back in the day, everyone would have been thinking very practically because food wasn't necessarily a stable source until farming came along.
Mm.
Um, we communication was hard even then before like not even electricity, but like the idea of communication without being present. So
Mm.
like telephones, mobile phones, and all sorts of stuff. We made so many things, right?
Mm.
And that helps us to what we think now is be better off and think more abstract, which is good. But
Mm.
um, if you then have people nowadays thinking, getting together and trying to solve climate change, well, I think it's a good thing because they're actually trying, they're aware of things that are happening in our world and they're trying to make it renewable.
Mm.
But you now then have to understand that you're not going to solve it all at once. There's a lot of people already making a difference out, There's tons of
Mm.
initiatives. I bet you a lot of people are already doing like clean up ocean initiatives, blah blah blah,
Mm.
reducing something, maybe trying to get I think one of the things people say a lot is trying to decrease our carbon footprint by
Mm.
making a bit more kind of eco-friendly or like more sustainable um, products and you know forms of waste management, recycling, blah blah blah.
Mm.
See, those things are working their way towards. But you kind of have to be realistic about it. How you can't expect the world to come to a complete stop without it breaking. And
Mm.
I think what many people think is that there's a magic reset button for the climate that if you click it,
You will
everything's going to
reset back.
work well. Yeah,
Yeah.
which isn't true. As you can
Mm.
already see now that, you know, the world is taking less of a toll on carbon footprints and whatnot because everyone's locked at homes due to this virus, right?
Mm.
Um, you can see the damaging effects of that occurring already. There
Mm.
isn't the economies are crashing.
Mm.
um, some people losing jobs. Nature's taking it a bit easier nowadays. There isn't as much carbon, you can say, because not as many people are traveling.
Mm.
Um, and like you can say that solves nature, but what is it doing to us?
Mm.
Now you have a new problem: how to keep
Mm.
the economy balanced while trying to keep a renewable world. You know,
Mm.
since we've solved the problem of creating solutions for us,
Mm.
you then have this new problem which you have to account for if you want everything to be as normal as you can. So, like I
Yeah.
said, when you said that people think it's so simple,
Mm.
um, I do agree with that. It isn't as simple, you know, because you have
Mm.
to be defining. Well, first of all, you have to be defining a premise of sorts, and you know, for one, if you were then to tackle this, complex problem, you'd have to account for about a million different things,
Mm.
and technically it is achievable. You have
Mm.
enough people working on it, right?
Mm.
Um, and it makes sense that it is achievable because how else would we build civilization or working together, right?
Mm.
I mean, you know, civilizations such as Egypt, Greece, and Rome, how did they come about? Working together, you know,
Mm.
that was a thing. Um, and if they wish to solve, a new problem, which isn't as evident nowadays, or probably wasn't evident back then because they didn't have electricity in the ancient times.
Mm.
Electricity is a pretty new idea. Like,
Mm.
you know, it would if it took that many people to build those civilizations, how many people do you reckon it would take to solve these problems?
Mm.
Practically everyone.
Mm.
Well, not practically. Like you've probably like a lot of people, but then you kind of have you can't solve that without you know bringing it down to the very first thing you have to think about, and it's understanding that it isn't a singular problem.
Mm.
And I think too many people think it is a singular problem,
Mm.
which is then where you don't achieve anything. Because
Mm.
if you sit there thinking that, it's so simple, even though you have to accept the reality that it isn't, you know, you're not
Mm.
really going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
Um, and so, if you kind of want to achieve something, you have to first, define what the goal is and
Mm.
then make your steps of how to achieve that because you can break more complex to less complex to the point where you can break it to something simple. Then
Mm.
if you combine the simple solutions, you'll get a complex solution
Mm.
because you've solved for each of like the little bits that people don't necessarily, realize.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So it is kind of a hard idea to grasp because, you know, not everyone thinks like that. And
Mm.
really, it's what people kind of miss today is being informed, probably nowadays.
Mm.
Maybe back then, there's certain things that can make you a little bit more kind of well versed with the world. Um,
Mm.
maybe back in the whole, I don't know, caveman period, it was, having the skills needed to survive under those situations.
Mm.
Nowadays, it's a lot more different. I'm pretty sure a lot of people have mentioned it already. It's kind of knowledge and knowing, but not just knowledge and knowing, but like, knowing what to do with it.
Mm.
Sure, someone can tell you some piece of information, but if you're not going to do anything with it, it's about as good as not existing.
Mm.
Right? Yeah, I kind of now have half forgotten everything else.
Alright.
Yeah, like it'd be easier if more people kind of understood why things aren't actually as simple as they seem.
Mm.
Um, but you kind of have to comprehend that not everything is simple.
Definitely.
Um, and if you were, so that you don't look foolish if you were to tackle a simple problem. Well,
Mm.
first I'd say, well, I mean, well, if you were to tackle a complex problem, sorry, then I'd tell you, well, what's the first thing you kind of have to look at?
Mm.
And obviously, like it is hard, which is why, you know, not many people do it nowadays.
Mm.
So, researching for something new, solving new problems is about what we've been doing all of history. We
Mm.
wanted better transportation. We built cars. Back in the day, people wanted easier ways of moving solid objects. They made uh, the wheel systems.
Mm.
You know, it's ingrained in the physics of it, why it makes sense, and that's the explanation to why it works. And
Mm.
so, like a lot of those problems that were solved were very complex ones.
Mm.
And funnily enough, most of the time people don't actually have a place to start when solving these ones. Like,
Mm.
I mean, you have to be pretty imaginative if the wheel never existed and you had to come up with the idea of a wheel, right?
Mm.
Maybe you didn't know what shapes are even. We didn't know that circles existed. For all we know, no one knows that. There's a lot of new things that people don't actually know. And
Mm.
to come up with such an idea that will help people is not necessarily lucky, but it's actually quite difficult.
Mm.
Which is why it's kind of a one in however many chance all the time for someone to come up with a breakthrough, which is why everything is really hard.
Mm.
Not to say that it's not possible, though. Very much is possible.
Mm. It's just not as easy as it's used to, I
Yeah,
guess.
well, I mean, nothing is really easy. Hey,
Mm.
um, like you want to get good at something, you rinse and repeat mechanical things you have to
Mm.
work on, and then from there it becomes actually solving things.
Mm.
Yeah. This stream's been on for an hour and something, hasn't it?
Hmm?
The stream's been on still.
Yeah,
Is it still just one person? This makes me sad.
that's fine. Don't
That's
worry.
right. I'll post this anyway. I'll just remix this in OBS and put it on.
Oh, don't worry. It takes time.
I know it takes time.
Nah, you just feel awkward.
No, I'm not patient. I'm a very not patient person, as you can tell. But it's fine.
Ah,
I can accept it for what it is. Learning to be patient is one hell of a skill. But yeah.
I have nothing to be patient.
I literally have no patience. It's funny, but if you want to get somewhere, you gotta learn it, man, and you gotta be. That's just you just have to accept it. And
Mm,
good thing is we're making a start. Because I do genuinely think like it's important for people to know this stuff. You
mm,
know, like I just kind of feel sorry for those who are too narrow-minded and misinformed. I couldn't bear to think that they could live life being in a box.
mm,
A lot of people have already touched on this idea anyway. Like, don't have to get out of this box to understand what actually is there. I mean, that is true.
mm,
There practically is a box, and um, I think the most important part. I think you were getting onto like a pretty controversial topic on like religion. It's
mm,
being at peace with accepting what it is that's
mm.
important.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so like when you said, well, what if all of this was fake? The people who um benefit from it most are the ones who actually accepted from the start that
Mm,
from the start I was at peace, knowing that even if this was or wasn't real, that I lived my best life to the way I wanted to.
mm,
Then that's the peace people get in religion. So it's not entirely that you have to believe a certain thing, but if you want to kind of, if you want to be happy with it, you just have to be at peace with yourself for making that decision, you know.
mm,
And that's like almost, the the whole point of a lot of things is
mm.
you've done nothing wrong if you're at peace with the decision you made.
Yeah.
Um, not to say that that's very different from moral correct and incorrectness, but
Mm,
if you feel at peace with the decision you've made, then there is nothing to say that it was the wrong decision. It might not have been the best. It might have been a more advantageous decision,
mm,
but you can never really say it was wrong, right? It
mm,
could have been the weakest, but it's not necessarily the wrong decision.
mm,
If you then have like an actual scale of what was wrong, you can say that. But if you don't, then you can't really. If I was doing a quiz on what's an apple and what's an orange, and a clear image of an orange was on the thing, and I clicked that as an apple,
mm,
then obviously I am wrong because
mm.
that decision was wrong because it
Yeah.
wasn't the apple, and that's the only time really you can say it was a wrong decision. But if it's for like complex ones, you can say that some were more advantageous than others, but
Mm,
there's nothing really wrong with it.
mm,
Like it never was wrong to start with. It might have been the weaker decision. But if you were happy with the decision you made, then you know
mm,
what what's the issue with that? I don't think there is
mm.
one. Yeah, a long chat. It's 2 o'clock, man. What the heck?
You like give me. Let me go to the toilet first.
All right. I wonder if I check the Twitch stream if anything's gonna come up. Dun, da, 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 bum, bum, bum. Fairly certain this is going to be. Oops. Notifications. Notifications. Ah, there it is. Notifications. Ah, there it is.
What's this?
I'm just checking out our Twitch. Ah, there it is.
What's this?
One
I,
viewer. Let's go.
I think we have to put some value there.
Ah, we will next time. Hey, but at least you started this.
Uh,
When do you want to can it?
who's
It's been on
hmm?
for a while. When do you want to can it? Like,
Mm,
end the stream.
you want to do it now? I don't mind.
Sure. Sounds good.
Maybe maybe in
Thanks
the
for
future
listening,
we
everyone.
can. Yeah, maybe in the future we can do more hours, but at the moment I don't think we have enough content to do so.
I
So
just ran out of ideas. That's what I
yeah, I
ran
know.
out of.
You might have to. I think the whole idea was not. It was supposed to not be a planned thing, but I think we do have to plan something. Or there has some topic to talk to, I guess. Then from there we can just go mine off, I guess. Having
Yes.
having zero topics and just go mine off straight away is a bit tougher, I think. Yeah. And if anyone that is listening to this at the moment, we just start streaming. So if there's any if
Give
there's
us
any
some feedback of what it sounds
yeah,
like.
yeah, exactly. Give us some feedback if you're for example, for our audio and visual part, for our for our audio we might able to upgrade, but it's still gonna take some time because for example, me and Simon we're still in studies, so we don't have like a freedom to do whatever we want, and I still have to work as well to pay for my rent, so it's a bit harder. But as for the visual quality, we don't mind to play any we try to make something that is gonna happen in background. But if you guys are looking for uh like recording of us talking, like our own person talking, it's gonna be a bit harder because none of us has I don't have a good enough quality to live stream my face, and we're trying to at the moment we're trying to stay hidden as well. So if you guys don't mind sticking with us with those two, we don't mind. Other than that, we'd like to see you guys have some sort of conversation or like talk to us or something like that. If we want to listen to more content, we do have a YouTube channel, which is pretty much
Yes.
yeah,
Our
pretty
name. Literally our
yeah,
name.
it's pretty much our name, and then it's the whole basis of that thing was it's the same thing with Twitch as well. So basically, during that time is that whenever we play any sort of game, like right now that we are playing a game, uh, we pretty much will record it, or we will try to. Sometimes some of the recording would be pure silence, or sometimes we can talk about our day, and then sometimes we just talk about complex topics like today as well. If we want,
Mm-hmm.
guys want to listen to it, uh, at the start we'll consider to say it's a podcast, but at the same time it's not really a podcast as well. It's more like a chat or opinion based type of things.
More of like a recorded, opinionated chat.
Yeah, so that's pretty
Mm.
much it. We are at the moment we are trying to do some re redo things, I guess, like retouching on our Twitch. We try to do something for our our bio and things like that, so for new followers, viewers, they know when we can join and things like that. But other than that, that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah.
So if you have any ideas that we can talk in the future, come to our YouTube and leave some reply, or even if that's a way on Twitch you can do it, we like to hear it too. And that's pretty much it. Just gi- uh just try to give us good criticism. Uh, hate comment, we're not looking for that, but if there's a few hate comment, I don't really mind, but I'm not too sure about Simon though. So yeah, so that's basically it.
Mm.
So if there's any future, yeah, like if you guys are looking forward to what game we're playing and things like that, we'll try to find a way to fit it in. But majority of the time when we're doing this talk, we would play some sort of game in the back. So to kind of like take our minds off things, so we can go like and I'm sorry if like some of the topic that we're talking about is not like solidify, because majority the way that we talk is that it's more of a rant and a tangent together, but with some sort of like idea or something to stabilize it. But that's pretty much it. Yeah. So Simon, do you have anything to say to talk
So
about?
all of what you call this? All of the live streams are going to be recorded, and I'm doing that now.
Hmm.
Um, they will be available on our YouTube channel. It'll have like a little kind of tag to say it was a Twitch recording and the
Hmm.
date of when it was. Um, because I'm not really necessarily going to edit any of the Twitch recordings because I'll just leave them as they are. and
Mm.
usually they'll be longer. And if you wanted to, if you missed out maybe one day and you wanted to catch up on one of the streams, you can just do that.
Yeah.
Because usually what we wanted is the streams to be less of a talk to each other, but more like a talk to you guys.
Mm.
And
So yeah.
yeah,
So our basis is that like for we would like to see that for Twitch it's more of a like a community thing. We kind of talk to
hmm
you guys, and then someone would be the usually he'll be the moderator of the seat, and I'll be the person that's I can because I my internet's not good enough to live stream, so I'll probably also be the one that's watching with you guys as well.
yeah,
And then if someone miss anything in the chat, I'll try to read something out of the chat too. So yeah, that's
yeah.
pretty much it.
Justin
That's
usually like pays attention on stream so that he can tell me if anything's wrong, visual,
mm,
audio, visual, blah blah blah, or just
mm,
or if I missed it, because I usually have the stream chat open anyway. If I do miss anything, he'll give me a heads up.
mm. Uh,
But yeah.
yeah. So that's for the teacher side. It's more
hmm
community based, and YouTube is more about us talking about anything from religion, personal day life, and anything like that. If you guys do have like a really fun topic or like a thing that you guys want to talk, we don't really care if it's like
If
y-
it's kind of silly, we don't really mind. Just put it down
yeah,
anyway.
like like don't be scared. Just like some people might think like this is a dumb thing or like a
Nah.
stupid thing, but we don't mind. We'd love to see even like we can provide some sort of answer for you guys. We're happy to say.
We'll
To
try our
happy to
best,
listen.
but
We can't
we'll see.
really promise anything, especially like if you're asking like where do you guys live and things like that. That's a bit harder.
Bit
But
weird, but okay.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. So in the future, we're gonna like we might try live streaming once a week if we can,
Yeah.
or maybe more depends on our timeline. And usually when we live stream, it's gonna probably be around 1 hour or 2 hour or 3 hour kind of thing. It depends as well. Today we just started out, so it's gonna be 1 hour, and then I think slowly we're just gonna add out more hours if we're free. So that's basically it. And for YouTube, it's every single week if we are able to edit it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
this.
YouTube's more of just like kind of in the week's content.
Mm,
A little bit more different because those are like throughout the week and they'll be a little bit more edited than the live stream.
mm,
Because as Justin's already mentioned, we already really wanted for the live stream was more of like not necessarily a Q&A, but like an opportunity to interact with the community rather than ourselves anyway.
mm,
Is at least these recorded chats you get to see like live of what's happening, and you
mm,
get to ask us any questions if you want. Aside from that though, like all things, we had to make a start, and so today we did.
mm.
Just go easy on us.
Yeah.
I only actually recently figured out how to start streaming on OBS through
Mm,
Google. Many forms of Googling, which I was really happy about. But
mm.
we do seek to improve later on. Once you guys start actually listening, please come. Jokes. It'll
Yeah.
take
So
time, but it's okay.
mm,
We'll work on it. We'll work on it.
mm.
Is it all?
Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
yeah,
Um,
so in the future we might link to ourselves. We might make an Instagram and then we might share our own personal Instagram if we want it as well.
that's later down the
So
track though, so
yeah. So at the moment it's just we're just trying to sort everything out. So we'll see.
trying to speak it into existence
Mm,
that this goes somewhere. But hey, we
yeah.
don't mind.
Mm.
It's the beauty of things. Alrighty. Yay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. So
Okay.
that's the stream chat and stream info. I think
Mm.
that is it for now. So I'll can it there.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. See ya. Bye.
Bye.